Well, this is kind of a impromptu video in the middle of the night. Um, I didn't plan on doing a video until Monday or Sunday, do a cooking video or something, but no, my mind is too full of things that have to be said. As you know, um, I have a story. It's a big story. And I wouldn't have known anything about my story until I died if it wasn't for my deceased son and beings of light, golden beings of light, coming to my bed, downloading me with the history of our world, did some work on my body. I cried out a couple of times. I mean, what I got was horrific. And the beings of light were not all lovey-dovey joyful. They were grave. And it bothered me, because you're spirits. Why are you grave? And then Trevor appeared. And Trevor and I had an experience. It was just pure love and laughter and joy. But one thing you gotta know is that there is no such thing as time to our spirits. Do you understand me? There's no concept of time to our natural spirits. There's no concept of north, south, east, or west. We are Christ flames, which means that we come from a fire, like the sun. We are not in the physical image of God. We are in the spiritual image of Christ, which, if you want to know what Christ is, it's the love of a baby. It's innocence. Unconditional love, right? They don't judge people. That's why they're so easy to be targeted. But I am and have been all my life, unconscious and conscious, a human behavior spy, I guess. Like, I didn't judge. I watch. I observe people and what they do and how they do it. And the way the lies flow so easily. Passive aggressiveness in holding back feelings, giving people the silent treatment, passive aggressive violence. a shell of people and their human behavior. Is not in the image of Christ. Now, it's like children lose it through living in a delusional world with cartoons and lies and fiction and horror movies and horror books and storytellers, and all of these things get inside of the imagination. And the imagination is clean and clear, and it's magic, guys. Your imagination comes each new birth, because you've had many, but they clear out your old history, so you don't have any memory of your past lives. But there are emotional memories, and there are other signs, birthmarks, and also hair and skin. These things change over generations. Because what I'm trying to say is that we've been seeded with something evil here. That's what I'm concluding. Seeded with something evil. S-E-E-D-E-D. Seeded. Seeds are important here. You can get seedless fruit, seedless vegetables. Genetically modified food, plants. They add something, take away the seeds. Why do you want to take away the seeds? Like, what? Anybody ask anybody around here? Why? On anything? I know that I was infertile. They said that they couldn't believe I even had my one son when I was 18. Because my uterus was full of scar tissue for some odd reason. They called it a disease, endometriosis. Oh, the pain I had. Oh, the torture. But we accept things because that's the way our spirits work. Just going along with the program here. And you're not really believing that anybody could, want to hurt you. Which brings me to why I'm starting to talk in the middle of the night. Right now, I need to tell you why. I am emotionally, completely detaching from my granddaughter, my own granddaughter, my own thread. And I am an example. Don't listen to me. unless you have the exact same problem I have. If you have the same problem I have, it might be worth a shot to emotionally make a decision now. Because you know we're reincarnated. And based on my dream that I picked my mother, we are picking our mothers. Why not do it now? What's holding you back from looking around the family thread now? So my granddaughter got engaged, and his name is Tyler Radmacher. And you know, I thought he's so good for her because he's been around since 2021 or something. And I was so happy for her. And now I find that she went into Vancouver and was engaged in Vancouver. She's going to be 24 this year. I was married at 25, and I was engaged in downtown Vancouver. We stayed at the Hotel Vancouver. We went to the Pacific Center, and I bought lingerie. And I just saw photos of my granddaughter in downtown Vancouver getting engaged. It's like the cycles, right? Like, what? This is too serendipitous here. And the ring? Exactly the same as mine. It's a cluster little ring. I think mine was a little bigger, but mine was really small. But hers was like, I didn't see any shine to it, none. Mine had shiny stars in it, like little clusters. But hers looked like paste. I'm not being mean here. I'm telling you something of my observations. And I'm not lying. I'm not holding back my feelings to protect anybody or make them feel good, because that's not what I do. So I go to her Facebook page and I look at the people that congratulated her and her new guy. And of course it's all my family. It's Gary, her step-grandfather, my ex, a man I consider to be a reptile. I'm telling you, his sperm didn't taste normal. That's the one clue I got. Also, they go gray early. Gray or redhead. Like they do. Something changes in them. And he was gray at 26. So was his mother. I found out that I was targeted only for my son by this man. And that's why I can call him that. And he has this terrible grayish kind of tinged skin and dark, almost black eyes, dark brown. From Germany, his mother was. His father was from Holland. And the name is Tebokorst, and that means the forest. According to his dad, I asked his dad, what does your name mean, Tebokorst? And his dad said, the forest. And They were atheists, this family. And they had their two kids, their boy and girl, when they were in their late 30s, 40s, early 40s, late 30s. And they had this picture perfect, idyllic life with the garden. And, jobs with the Canadian Airlines, and mom stayed home. And I don't know what she did. I don't know. But I know his sister would pull her eyelashes out. And I thought that's a sign of a disturbance in the house. But other than that, there really wasn't nothing to look for there. So I walked right into it. I've married the man, the groom, the shell on the cake. You know the groom on the cake with the bride? You get a wedding cake and there's a groom and a bride up there. Well, I married the groom. Even my mother said, he looks like Omar Sharif. But no, you got to look closer. As they age, it will become more clear. And I can see it is. There are people here who are atheists. They're godless. They mean it. You got to believe them when they say it. You just brush it off. Oh, you're just being so, you're mad at God. That's what I did. No, 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 you got to believe it. And his father belonged to some cult called the Humanitarians. I didn't know what it was. It's hard to do proper human behavior with so many sneaky liars around. And so it takes a while to unfold. But I know that my son had a son and named him Dylan Thomas, and the mother's name was Angela. Like Angel. It's all a wonderful story. Trevor Thomas, Angela, and they had Dylan Thomas. But they were a mess. My son was a mess. Angela was a mess. They were kids. They were teenagers. 19. Trevor was. She was only 15. And so they weren't ready. And it wasn't good. And, it seemed like the more Trevor tried, he was on, drugs because he was put on them when he was in grade 2. Meth with that Ritalin. And that's what they created there. So, well, of course, I'm the one that sacrificed him, but, I was just going along with the program. Give him his medicine. Go by the book. Don't listen to your gut instinct that there is something seriously wrong going on when your kid is acting out in bizarre ways. I saw him with nylons and makeup in his bed. I saw inappropriate things many times when he was a child. So the imagination has been interfered with. And when the imagination is interfered with, you're going to manifest something not pretty. I feel people either become perpetual victims like me, or hide away their feelings and become abusers themselves. Because when you don't have feelings, you're an abuser. Believe you me. When you don't have feelings, you are an abuser. It doesn't have to be physical or sexual. Emotional abuse is often worse. You should go watch the Chris Watts, Watts, story on YouTube. This bizarre murder in Colorado, where it's a big military kind of compound over there, by the way, and where he murdered his wife and 2 kids, put them in an oil drum, and anyway, big story. Well, the thought is that he was brainwashed by a woman who entered into his life 6 weeks earlier, supposedly, and wooed him away from his wife and kids in 6 weeks. And then there's his mother, who, boy, oh boy, do I ever recognize her as a complete psychopath. She hated her son's wife. She hated her. She wouldn't go to the wedding. And that's like my sister. She's the same. You're going to punish you. You're going to marry the wrong girl? We're going to not go to your wedding. And with Trevor, you're not going to, kneel to me instead of your mother. I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm not coming to your wedding. That's what my sister did to my son the year he was dead. There are people out there that then go about destroying emotionally destroying their enemies. What this mother did, the mother of the guy who alienated the whole family, is she tortured her emotionally. Her children, the 2 kids, were allergic to peanuts or nuts. And the mother was uptight about having nuts around, of course. And so she asked her, please just make sure there's no nuts and anything around here. Well, not only did she serve ice cream with pistachio nuts, but she left a big bowl of peanuts out. Like, who does that? Who? I don't have peanuts left out, ever, never. It was a deliberate, it's a game they play. And it's an emotional game that you can't catch them on. They'll say, I'm sorry. But then what happens is the accusation becomes the problem. How dare you? What are you saying? That I'm trying to kill my own granddaughter? Right? Then your accusation becomes like, and that was like me growing up, trying to tell them there's sexual abuse going on all over the place here. And they all of them say, how dare you? How dare you? Well, I dare. I double dare. I triple dare. How dare you forget who you are? So there I was with this son, Angela, and this new baby, who I adored, and I couldn't get enough of him. I supported them all the way, but they had issues with her family. Her maternal side was terrible. They hated Trevor, and it seemed like it was just a no-go. They weren't going to support it, and as such, They were in trouble a lot until they broke up. And then Trevor, he cleaned himself up quite a bit. He stopped all the hard drugs. He was still smoking weed. But he went back to school. But before he went back to school, we should not forget this part, he met another person. And she had red, wiry hair. And the first time I met her, he went out with her for a week, 1 week. And I met her. She came to my apartment. We had a condo in Abbotsford at the time. And she came over with him. And she was stealing dimes out of my dime jar. And I didn't like her. That's all I remembered. I didn't like her. She looked like a thug. And I didn't like her. But I don't say it. I'm not a psychopath. And I'm not going to ever do that to my son. He has to make his own choices all the time. And bear the consequences all the time. I do not interfere. But I felt very, very, very uncomfortable. And sure enough, the year Trevor died, he died June 28th, 2003, he found out, well, he got married. He decided, well, he had gone to school to become a heavy-duty mechanic, and he met a woman there, a gal from Guatemala, and she was studying tourism management, and he was studying heavy-duty mechanics, and they fell in love. And then that was over on the island, and they came home and decided to get married. January 18th, 2003. I loved her. She was a beautiful, I picked out her wedding dress with her. And Trevor was fighting for Dylan in court. And then all of a sudden he finds out he has a daughter. Didn't know. And she was 2.5. And, thought all that was behind us. But, you know what you do? In my world, you bring her in with loving arms. You accept everything, especially children, and you help. But that was April of 2003 when I met her. And then Trevor was dead June 28th. So I didn't know her very well, or her mother at all. But I sure found out. I sure found out. My family all loved to, party and go camping. And it was no different right after Trevor died. 3 weeks after Trevor died, they were all camping somewhere. I couldn't go. I was in no shape. I was grieving. But they all left me there. So I, and then ended up in the hospital because it wasn't my time. And you can't do that. You cannot try and take your life. If it's not your time, you're not going to go. Trust me. I know. And it wasn't my time, and so I ended up at the damn hospital. And then Marianne kept bringing in this little girl to see me. But she had bruises all over her all of the time. She was pure white pale. She looked sickly and sad. I felt so sorry for this little girl. And I never wanted to offend the mother. So I just kept bringing groceries over to them. But the mother would keep moving and tell me stories that I'm not going to repeat here about what Caitlin had been through already. Absolutely incapable of loving her own child, to protect her. There's so much more to that story, but I kept trying. That went on for a while until I finally said to the mother, I'm taking her. I'm taking Caitlin into my house and I will look after her. You go find a house and stable place. I will keep Caitlin until then. And she gave her to us. But I was bringing her into something else. I don't know what, because it was scary. Yeah, I don't know what happened. All I know is that I had no peace in my heart and I was going crazy. And I knew I couldn't stay in my apartment with him anymore. I had to get out. By then we were in Surrey in a townhouse. And I had to get out of there. And so I knew it was Trevor in my spiritual awakening now. It was Trevor getting me out of there. Because when you cross over, you know what's going on and you can read the thoughts of your loved ones. There's so much more to our universe and our world that you have no idea, guys. When you're closed-minded and living in a box or living in lies or have no more feelings, then you can just expect to like you're like in a toilet and you're subject to whatever, whoever's going to flush. Like, because you're spiraling. There's no time. There's a loop. But we're repeating the history, and the crimes against the children have gotten to the point of humanity turning utterly dark without Christ, without that flame, without that love. Because when you're raised, like my granddaughter was raised, how you're going to lose it. I don't know what happened to Gary. I don't know. We don't know. You think you know people and you don't. You can only ask, what the fuck happened? What would make you harm a child? And it's the imagination. It's their fantasies that they were collecting as early childhood children. And so often, your abused will become the abuser. And that's why I am up against so many, counterpunches to what I'm trying to do here in protecting love, protecting children. But that Chris Watts over in Colorado, his mother and sister, double whammy, that woman, Shannon, the mother, all the time. Made her crazy. Put her on edge, made her feel unbalanced. like the silent treatment, not showing up to the wedding, not showing up to a kid's birthday or whatever. Punishing. Games. And then not being real. It's something inside of that. Some jealousy, some competition, something's missing. But I recognized it. It's what I've been living with my entire life. So there I was today. I saw that she'd posted about her engagement. I was just shocked that it was in Vancouver, and the I swear to God on a stack of Bibles that wedding, that engagement ring is the exact same shape as mine. It just had no sparkles. So who is he? So I was looking at her, the ones that liked and loved her engagement, and she's a very popular girl. She's the #1 Canadian barrel racer. She's got a lot going for her. What happened was, after I left Gary, I ended up taking her up to Vernon, where I bought a condo. And I was a complete bad. I took her to Disneyland. I was so depressed. I was not in the right mind to have a little girl around me. All I wanted to do was protect her, but I couldn't. And then I realized, well, wait, she's got maternal grandparents. Her mother has parents. Why can't they help? Where are they? And I come to find out they have this big farm, horse farm. And they're together, 2 people. Well, actually, she's a stepmother. And he is her biological grandpa, who has a horse farm. And so I asked them, she was 6 by then. She wasn't doing well in French immersion. I took her to French immersion for kindergarten. She didn't like it. It wasn't working out. I was too sick to get out of bed. And I knew I was going to disappoint her or do a really bad job. I already killed 1 kid, right? I didn't want to mess up another. And I knew I would. And I didn't see the cold hearts that I was placing her into. Yeah, they took her on, but they were cold. They're very cold people. And between them and Gary, using my name in vain, my granddaughter can't stand me. She won't. When I was going homeless, I was trying to give her all my things. I dropped off a bunch of things, and then finally with the storage unit, I had china, like it was very expensive china that I collected over a 20-year marriage. And then so I gave it to her, and she just said, thanks. That's it, thanks. 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 Nothing. She's got nothing for me. Nothing. And she tortures me, She post pictures up there of Gary's, new trophy person that he hides behind. And, she's a game player. My granddaughter is very popular and a game player. And I can only assume it's because her flame went out. And I don't. No, I know why. people's flames are going out. Your imaginations are hijacked. They're first put into fear of your own mother, reading those scriptures in the Garden of Eden to start with. Talking about fear brings fear. Talking about killing brings killing. Our imaginations are pure. We don't think like that, guys. We don't have those thoughts in our real consciousness. Those thoughts are programmed into us. And people are starting to realize something very wrong is going on. And I'm telling you, there is. There is something very wrong going on. And it is only going to be us that can flip the tables. You're waiting for Jesus Christ to come out of the sky. Not going to happen according to Jesus. Not going to happen. Each of us is a Christ flame. Go back to your childhood. If you have a place back there where you remember love, where you remember joy, laughter, appreciation, unconditional love. No, you didn't care what your parents did. You didn't care. Did you? You just loved. Until you weren't loved. And when we aren't loved, when children aren't loved, their lights could go out. So what happens? Well, there's no time. So this loop is just going to spiral into darker and darker dimensions. And it's just too horrible to watch when we're on paradise here. You look around. The lush flowers, the green, the water, the waterfall, the mountains, the oceans, the lakes. When I look at Earth, I see freaking paradise everywhere. And the colors are turquoise and blue and splendor of pinks and yellows and greens. And, oh yeah, it's everywhere. I see heaven here. I really do. But I see in my mind's eye type this image of all these dark shadows everywhere. Dark shadows in a dimension that they don't know they could come out of. It's a dimension. And dimensions are here on Earth. You could have your low dimensions, and believe it or not, you can have high dimensions here on Earth too. But you wouldn't know who they are, dark shadows. You wouldn't know when you hate the light. You don't come out. You don't look around. You don't feel other people. I found and I learned in my imagination that it is the manifester. And so I was downloaded with the story about Jesus and King James and Mary, and then Mary too, and then Elvis, and then his mother Gladys Love, and me, and Trevor, and this other thing in India. Yeah, I was downloaded with a bunch of, it made no sense to me. But when it's in my imagination, and I begin to look at it with a little bit of an open mind, it wasn't easy, but Trevor was there. So I kind of believed it. But it was slow. it wasn't until 2020 that I actually believed it was true. I am no spirit. I am the spirit of Mary. If you want to call it, in the history books, she's called Mary. But there isn't any one of us that isn't in the history books, kids, because we're repeating cycles. And if you look at the history books, you can see war after war after war. And then the Victorian ages, whoa, then we really put the kids to work. Then we really began to torture them. Then we really began to put the light out. It's just, it's pretend land here, but it's not of the light. It's artificial intelligence. It's artificial love. It's conditional love. It's until you cross me, love. It'll never let things go. It'll let people sin. You don't, you're just a big baby all the time with everybody. And that's a very low dimension of consciousness. And as Earth continues, the majority of people here are watching TV, the ones that are in my earshot here, because you're listening to me, so you're listening to devices, but there are other people who are not. There is nowhere else for me to go. This is my home. But I live in a different dimension. And I will again. I don't know why, other than for the sake of my family and humanity, is what I'm told to tell my story, which is not believed, not cared about, no interest, because I trigger people, trigger everybody. Because people have been wired to think the wrong way, and deep down they know they're not given love anymore. It's all about image. I'm sorry. It's all about the shell of a person. And we become shells when we're not loved. And so you can't carry any anger, and I don't. I have none toward anybody. There's a song, it's called 96 Tears, and I'll just cry. I don't want revenge. I don't want anybody punished. What you do to others, you're doing to yourself. And no one else. And I don't know how many generations, because I've told you, our consciousness has been around a long time. And there are certain spirits who are being reborn into the same threads and getting darker and darker. So that's what's going on Earth. Dark Shadows is going on. My brother used to watch that show when he was a kid. I never watched it, not even once, but I have it in my head right now. Dark Shadows. That's exactly what's going on when you do not have that light of love to give and feel, and that joy of giving. I had just written something in Facebook there about when I was a little girl. There was no candy around. There was no joy. And so I stole $1 off my mom's dresser. I was 5, and I was out by the swings of the apartment. And I felt such joy around all these little kids, but we had no candy, nothing, no food, no drink, and it just didn't feel right to me. The playground, and nobody had anything. So I went and stole this $1 off my mom's dresser, and I walked a mile to the Lucky Dollar store in Burnaby. I lived on Suncrest Drive. And I went to the Lucky Dollar store, and I got a box of Fudgicles, and I walked with my little legs back to the playground, and I gave away all the Fudgicles. That's who I am. It made me feel good to see other people happy, and then we can just have fun together. There's no stress. But we create stress by hiding our feelings, by lying to ourselves, by ignoring our responsibilities to ourselves, to caring about ourselves, and to not leaving it up to others, like other gods or the government or other people, to take care of us. The right people will be there to help. They're there for me. Trust me. I got angels, concrete angels. Ones that you may think are a dark shadow. But you can come up from the dark shadow and become the light again. And I've proven that in my story too. Because I found that the second man that I had a committed relationship with here targeted me for my granddaughter. And there I was, guilty again of not having a woman's intuition, of not having the power to stop it. Until I found the evidence, hard evidence. When you got hard evidence, sister, you're laughing. I found the hard evidence and I took it to the police. And he went to jail for 2 years. He left me with all of his bank cards so that I could survive. I was a mess. I was on all these antidepressants, and my granddaughter was with me part-time. Gary part-time and the farm part-time. It wasn't good when most of them are all step people, not biologically related, and that is when it's a problem. Although nowadays, apparently, people are having kids for that reason. So, that's what it's, the dimensions that I'm talking about. I don't know who's listening to me, but I don't know where you're at in your consciousness. But if you are wholly unaware of what I'm talking about, um, I think that you must be dead. Because anybody that is watching devices is affected. And either you know or you don't. But a lot of people laugh at the conspiracy theorist. And they say tinfoil hat and oh my God. But I am saying that there is a spiritual war going on right now on Earth. They cannot destroy Earth, guys. They cannot. Okay? Please stop fearing that. It can't. We live in a protected dome. There is no outer space. We live in a protected dome. We are stars. We come from behind the moon, the brighter side of the moon. Our intelligence is like it goes way higher than mine. Way fucking higher. The consciousness. But you can't get there without the consciousness of love as your base. As your base. And everything you do is on that foundation and not on the foundation of fear. And remember, our imaginations are what create us. And if you have children or grandchildren, their imaginations are precious and you need to protect them. You need to protect them from words, from others, right? Yeah, you do have to. You teach your children what you want them to know. You teach them how to cook, how to garden, how to take care of themselves, how to do hygiene, how to help out mom around the house, how to help dad chop the wood or whatever. Let's do it together. And they'll want to. The kids, they want to do it. Like when I was a kid, I wanted an easy bake oven. I wanted a toy vacuum cleaner. I wanted dolls. Yeah, I go along with it, right? Because I loved it. But the video games are the toys now, and it's a consciousness of violence for much of it. I play card games online, like just like backgammon or spades or hearts. I chat with people and play cards online, and I find it quite enjoyable for just relaxing the mind. And I also listen to my playlist a lot. I don't like, I can't listen to BitChute anymore. I can't watch mainstream at all. So I'm in my own world, my own dimension. And I just wanted to talk before I close about this dark dimension. When Trevor crossed over, I had a dream that my spirit went to him. And he was about 9 years old in this foggy, dark, kind of spacey area on the ground. But it reminded me of Harrison Hot Springs with that kind of fog coming out of the water and dark. And Trevor and a whole bunch of kids were all standing around everywhere. Just standing around in the dark. That's another dimension, right? That's a consciousness that has gone there. And I followed him. We don't sleep. Our spirits move at night. And then, I'm sorry, I've got asthma. And then, a school bus arrived, a yellow school bus. And all the kids got up on the school bus. And so did Trevor. And the door closed. And I went up to the door and I yelled in, Trevor, can I come with you? And it was just a telepathic no. And the bus left this dimension, this dark dimension I visited him on. But he came back, and he was playing with my electricity, and they do that. They play with your electronics. Very intelligent. And I'm not talking about just one, I'm talking about all of us. But they can't destroy the earth, but they can create a shitload of dark shadows. And people can adapt. I mean, frogs can adapt, tadpoles can adapt. It's a consciousness, right? So when you're born, you're going to adapt. And you're going to have no memories of before. Because that's the way it works. Try again. But if you're born into even worsening conditions, probably even less love, more neglect, what are the odds that you can come up out of the dark shadows? I'm understanding that the dimensions do go up to 12. It's a level of manifestation that you can acquire. If you're thinking of manifestation and abundance as in wealth, you're wrong. It's feeling. It's in the feeling of complete and utter peace and happiness, acceptance, unconditional love. I would love to be, a nomad. Is that what they're called? And you just roam around with your family, with your tribe, and you explore. This wonderland. Where else can we use our human senses, people? You're in a vessel now, and instead of using your spirit's intelligence, you've adapted to some sort of artificial intelligence that removes you from your Christ flame, your light, where you do know all, and you're not a worm. You're. If God can do it, you can do it. If God can make a world, you can make a world. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if you're a part of it, you're a part of it. It's just like my son, he is a part of me. And his children are a part of him. But I think one of them is genetically modified. Like zero love. And my inability to connect with her. I can't. I can't. Can't connect. And so I know that I am conscious, coming back to Earth. If I want to evolve beyond this dark shadows consciousness, this matrix, this 3D shit, I have to choose my mother wisely. You can't pick unhealthy people that, can't love or are punishers. And she's a punisher, right? Punishing me for introducing her to Frank. If she only knew. And she doesn't, right? So unconscious people don't know fuck all. They don't know anything. They live in the dark. And I will not be there. I will never be there. And only I can make that decision because of my own consciousness. So I don't know. I really, honestly, I really don't know where I would go. But I imagine I'll find that out later. But what I do know is this is no place. As a person who has traveled the world, followed my dreams, followed my impulses, my intuitions to that were closed have opened, and I can now see every step of my way was on purpose. Every person I met was on purpose. Every encounter on purpose. Going homeless and getting introduced to the charity world food bank, getting introduced to YWCA, and charities. No, there's no charity. No, no, it's all for profit. And the most vulnerable, the weakest, are the ones that, they'll take the morsels and they're not going to frickin' complain, are they? They're not going to say the food bank food is garbage. No, you'll say, well, you're ungrateful. You ungrateful. The fact that we even have to have them is some other subject. But it's all under the subject of a godless world in the Garden of Eden. And there it will stay. Dark shadows, obedience, and adaptation to Satan's rule. You need the light to fly. So that's why I was born this time. To see it all and to know exactly what I don't want for next time. And I know there's a lot of people that have had spiritual events or near-death experiences or past life memories come to their consciousness, and they are making emotional decisions as well. You cannot have attachments to things that are ungodly. Period. If it's ungodly, I wouldn't be attached to it anymore. And I never used to say that. I used to say, fix your family, fix your relationship, try again. So many people got mad at me for that. And I said, well, I have the worst family. I'm the one that should not forgive. So, but there is a difference, right? If you're carrying around a bunch of rage about them, you've got a freaking problem yourself. You're no different. You're no different if you're still carrying around the darkness. Okay? You're just cycling. You're only different if you're the light. If you are unconditional. If you let it go. If you have acceptance. And empathy for what happened to them. So, carrying around the feelings make make it no different than the dark shadow people. And being a victim is no way to represent Christ. We're all responsible for our own souls. You have free will. You can do whatever you want. You can live a life of fantasy. And it's fun and it's joy. But without the consciousness of love, it will manifest, your imagination will manifest darkness, because the manifestation comes from your imagination. I think that's all. Thanks, everybody. I hope I help. I'm not here to hurt. Like and subscribe.